Bobby Heenan was a master of the wrestling world, managing some of the biggest names in the business. But his toughest opponent wasn't in the ring. It was the illness that ultimately took his life. Get ready to hear the heartbreaking story of his final fight. Bobby Heenan, born Raymond Lewis Heenan on November 1st, 1944, was a legendary figure in professional wrestling. He was best known as a manager and commentator, working for big wrestling promotions like the AWA, WWF, and WCW. He was famous for being quick-witted and for getting the crowd to hate him and the wrestlers he managed. His main job was to make his wrestlers look good, and he did it incredibly well. Heenan managed many top stars, including Nick Bockwinkel, who became the AWA World Heavyweight Champion with Heenan's help. During the 1980s wrestling boom, he played a huge role by managing King Kong Bundy and Andre the Giant in major matches against Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 2 and WrestleMania III. But this genius had a life too controversial and tragic. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. Thanks. First off, Heenan was known for his quick wit and sharp insults, but sometimes he went too far. He made comments that were seen as racist or insensitive, especially during his feud with the Junkyard Dog. His remarks targeting wrestlers of different ethnicities didn't always sit well with fans and crossed a line for many. Then there's his commentary. Heenan was famous for always siding with the bad guys or heels, and while this was entertaining, some people felt he took it too far. His harsh, biased takes often blurred the line between the scripted nature of wrestling and reality, and that upset some fans who thought he was being too unfair. Heenan's larger-than-life personality also led to several on-screen clashes with wrestlers and even his fellow commentators. While most of these were scripted for entertainment, some of these confrontations got pretty heated, leaving fans to wonder how real they were. One of the most talked-about moments in his career was the weasel suit incident in WCW. After losing a match, Heenan was forced to wear a silly weasel suit as punishment. Many saw this as humiliating for someone of his legendary status and felt it was a bit disrespectful. Finally, Heenan's departure from WWE in 2001 stirred up some drama. He left feeling underappreciated and openly criticized the company's creative direction. This created a strained relationship with WWE for a while, though things were patched up later. Despite this, he was loved by all and thoroughly respected in the wrestling community. Everything was going well until one day he got diagnosed with a disease so cruel that nobody could save him. And this was the beginning of a tragedy. While Heenan was known for his sharp wit and legendary presence in the wrestling world, his life behind the scenes was a different story, one of resilience, pain, and bravery. From his throat cancer diagnosis to his final days, Bobby Heenan's health journey was a tough battle. But through it all, he never lost his humor or love for the fans. In 2002, Bobby Heenan's life took a major turn. At the height of his post-wrestling career, he was diagnosed with throat cancer. The cancer was located at the base of his tongue and had spread to his lymph nodes. He faced this challenge head-on, but it came with immense difficulty. Heenan underwent aggressive treatments, including surgery to remove part of his tongue, and a whopping 35 radiation treatment. Can you imagine the toll that must have taken? The treatments were brutal. He lost a significant amount of weight, and his voice, that legendary voice, was noticeably altered. Yet even in the midst of his battle, Heenan continued making public appearances. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't backing down. He would lose his hair and wear a bandana, but he was still Bobby the Brain Heenan. He still had that charisma and that strength that made people love him in the first place. By 2004, the cancer went into remission. You'd think this would be the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Well, in some ways it was, but the damage from the treatments had already been done. Heenan's speech was permanently affected, making it difficult for him to speak clearly for long stretches of time. That witty, quick delivery was slowed, and he also had trouble eating and swallowing, which only added to his weight loss and overall frailty. His struggles didn't end there. In 2007, Bobby had to undergo a second reconstructive jaw surgery after the first one didn't quite work. But this time, things took a turn for the worse. Complications from the surgery led to an infection, and Heenan was placed in a medically induced coma. For weeks, his family and his fans feared the worst as he lay in intensive care. But if there's one thing we know about Bobby, it's that he's a fighter. He eventually pulled through, though the recovery left him even more fragile than before. Still, he didn't give up. He battled through infections in the aftermath of that jaw surgery, but his health challenges kept mounting. In December 2009, Heenan was hospitalized yet again. This time, it was another infection in his rebuilt jaw, which required further treatment. It was one setback after another. And if that wasn't enough, the falls started to happen. By 2010, Heenan's body had weakened from years of battling cancer, surgeries, and infections. He became prone to falling, suffering one injury after another. In 2010, he broke his hip, shoulder, and pelvis in a fall at home. Just as he was recovering, he fell again in 2014, breaking his shoulder once more. Then in 2016, he suffered another serious fall, this time breaking his hip again. It was heartbreaking for his family and fans to see such a strong personality physically deteriorating. In addition to managing, Heenan was also a commentator for WWF. He regularly teamed up with Gorilla Monsoon, and their on-screen chemistry was pure magic. Heenan played the perfect heel, villain commentator, always rooting for the bad guys and making snide remarks about the fan favorites. He called the fans humanoids and had a lot of fun mocking the wrestlers he didn't like, often causing Monsoon to roll his eyes or say his famous line, "Will you stop?" Their partnership became one of the highlights of WWF programming, and fans loved tuning in just to hear them banter. Heenan continued to work as a commentator until 1993 when he decided to leave WWF. His farewell was one for the ages. On an episode of Monday Night Raw, Gorilla Monsoon literally threw Heenan out of the building, suitcase and all. After the cameras stopped rolling, the two embraced and shared a heartfelt goodbye. After leaving WWF, Heenan joined World Championship Wrestling, WCW, in 1994. WCW offered Heenan a lighter schedule, which was perfect for him as he was still dealing with his old neck injury. He continued his role as a commentator, working alongside big names like Tony Schiavone and Eric Bischoff. One memorable moment from Heenan's WCW days came in 1996, when Hulk Hogan turned heel, became a bad guy, and joined the New World Order, NWO. Even though they were now both villains, Heenan couldn't resist saying, "I told you so," as he had spent years telling everyone Hogan was a bad guy deep down. Heenan stayed with WCW until 2000, but by that time, he was growing frustrated with the direction of the company. He eventually left, and WCW went out of business just a few months later. Even after his time with WCW, Heenan remained a beloved figure in wrestling. He made a few appearances in WWE, including providing commentary for the Gimmick Battle Royal at WrestleMania X7 in 2001. In 2004, he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, a well-deserved honor for someone who had given so much to the industry. Heenan battled health issues in his later years, but he continued to make appearances at wrestling conventions and fan events. He even wrote 2 books, sharing his stories and experiences from his decades-long career. Fans, colleagues, and fellow wrestlers will always remember Bobby the Brain Heenan as one of the greatest wrestling managers, commentators, and personalities of all time. He was a true legend who made everyone laugh, even when they loved to hate him. Thanks for watching. Bobby Heenan's story is one of both incredible highs and heartbreaking lows. His impact on the world of wrestling will never be forgotten, and his humor, charisma, and dedication to the business made him a true legend. If you enjoyed learning more about his journey, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our future videos. Let's keep Bobby's legacy alive by sharing his story with the world. Until next time, take care.